Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of Segafan's Sunday Service. This is going to be the start of a new vlog where I'm going to pick a topic every week and we're going to discuss it. This week we're going to be doing E3. I'm going to say my favourite 5 things that happened in E3. I'm then going to move on to my rant on the Xbox, which isn't going to just be me attacking the Xbox. I'm going to try and think about it rationally. And then we're going to go to what I thought of Nintendo's press conference, which was a little bit strange. Now, this is going to be the first episode, obviously, because you haven't seen one before, and they will improve over time as I find my feet with this and get a bit more of a structure. I've never actually done anything like this before, so this is all new to me. So if you like what you see, leave a comment, tell me what you thought of E3, what was your favourite bit, what didn't you like, what did you wish you saw. Anyway, without any further interruptions, let's get on with it. Okay, so the first thing from E3, it was actually one of the final things I saw on E3 that really got me excited, was Titanfall. That was probably the most impressive game to me from the whole E3 Expo. It looked next generation, and I don't just mean visually, I mean the whole premise of the game looked fantastic. What I wanted to do is I wanted to have the trailer on this video in the background, and then I was going to talk over the trailer, but the problem with that is I don't want to be pulled up on any of this bullshit that's going around YouTube at the moment of people having their videos taken down for showing this, that and everything else. So I'm just going to keep things short. Hopefully in the future I'll put a lot more videos in, and hopefully it will get better, but at the moment I don't want to risk spending ages making this video and then having it taken down. So the thing that really drew my attention to Titanfall is when it started I was kind of like, yeah, this looks okay, we're on a drop ship, and then boom, holy crap, you just see the drop ship kind of warp onto the planet, and then the back of the bloody thing opened, and then you have this massive landscape in front of you, and then the trooper jumps out the back of the ship, hits the ground. First thing you see is this massive 20-foot mech. It looked like something out of Avatar or some shit, you know, one of those crazy mechs. That looked awesome. Anyway, this trooper, he gives you your orders and sends you on your way. And then as you're looking up into the sky, you can see all these big battleships warping in, you can see troops being airdropped down into the ground, and the scale of the game looked fantastic. I don't think we've really seen anything like that in-game yet. So that really blew me away, and they had my attention there. Now as the demo went on, I started to look at the HUD, and it kind of looks pretty standard, but there were some things there that I really liked. I liked the map on the screen. In the corner, that looked pretty cool. It looks quite detailed. We don't really get a detailed motion sensor like that. And as you're going through earning points, you've got another camera on the other side of this woman, and she's constantly giving you Battlefield updates, telling you what's going on, and then she says something about your Titan being ready, and I was like, ooh, okay, I could feel this buzz of excitement, like, ooh, what's that, and about halfway through, the guy playing runs into a clearing and he calls down a Titan, which is this massive mech, kind of exactly the same thing you saw in the beginning. Now I am a huge Mech Warrior fan, so when I saw this thing drop down and the guy run into it and take control of this thing, I literally shit my pants. I was like, this is badass. Okay, I'm gonna have to get this game, but I don't want an Xbox One. So I was kind of really thinking to myself, Microsoft, you're putting me in a really awkward situation because I don't want your machine, but I really want this game. So I did some further research, and turns out it's coming out on the PC, so that's great. It's also coming out on the Xbox 360, which I was quite surprised, to be honest. I'm going to be interesting to see how much they actually cut that down to fit on the system. I'm sure it'd be fine if it's your only option. I can't see any major problems with it. I think what they'd do is scale all the graphics back, obviously, and maybe it'd be fewer players. But yeah, so that is one of the big games that took my attention from E3, and I'll have a link to the trailer down below. The second game that has kind of had my attention for a little while is Watch Dogs. I'm really not sure about this one. It kind of looks like GTA, but a lot more interactive. I mean, the game looks great. It looks like it's got a nice big open world, and there seems to be an awful lot you can do. I mean, the way they set it up on the commercial is almost anything you can think of you can do. I mean, at one point on the demo he shows you blacking out the entire city to get away from the cops. Now that was pretty cool. I did like that. The other thing that they showed, it was kind of like a little subtle thing, but I thought it was very clever. Another part of the demo, you had to escape from the police. Now the way he did this time was he was in his car driving around, as you do, and there was a locked fence coming up on the side of the road, and he actually hacked the fence, which opened it, drove into this little garage, shut the fence electronically behind him, and turn off the ignition of the car, and you could see all the cars driving past because you was essentially hidden in this little alcove type thing. And that was actually one of the most impressive parts of that demo, because that was something very natural, something very realistic. So that took my attention. And it looks like you've got a lot of freedom when moving around. It goes a little bit Assassin's Creed-ish, like you can leap over fences, and there's a little bit of a parkour system in there from what I picked up on. And then there's all the hacking, all the perspective things you can do, like hacking all the cameras, getting all these different perspectives. Like you can literally hide behind a crate and then hack into a camera, and you can still have a full overview of the actual landscape and see where the cops are, see where targets are, and even help your friends. So I thought that looked quite interesting. However, there is a problem with that. I notice on so far, to pre-order Watch Dogs on the PS4 and the Xbox One, you're looking at 50 quid. Okay, so I was kind of thinking, yeah, that's a hell of a lot of money for a game. And then I noticed it on the PC for $29.99. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. It looks to me like the majority of the next generation games I'm going to be buying so far are going to be on the PC. At the very worst, the PC version is going to be identical than the next gen games, and they're almost half price, so that's kind of really buggered me off, to be honest. Looking at all these next gen games for $54.99, I really cannot think of one game that I've ever played in my life that is worth almost £60. No, so that's one thing that I really noticed. As good as these games are, they're really not going to be worth 60 quid. So the third thing from E3 that caught my attention was a game called The Order. What was it, 1886? This looks kind of interesting. Now the demo said it was all running in-game, or in-engine, and that is very, very hard to believe because it kind of looked like a Pixar movie on steroids. So that's going to be very interesting. Now I don't know what The Order is. It looks like a very old English steampunk kind of squad-based shooter, if I'm getting that right. I might be wrong because they didn't actually show you any gameplay, so we don't know whether it's a first person, a third person, hell, a strategy game, who knows. But it looks very cool, and you don't actually really see the enemies in it. Everything's very blurry, very fast. It looks like they're werewolves, which is quite nice because we haven't had a good werewolf game for a long time. In fact, I can't really think of any good werewolf games in the last generation. So that looked kind of interesting, and you got all sorts of snap views of the weapons. The weapons look kind of interesting. You've got like a carbine, you have some kind of weird lightning gun, and then another guy has a minigun, and yeah, so that looks kind of interesting. And the other thing that surprised me with it as well is the characters are using like radios to talk to each other. So yeah, it's a very advanced steampunk game. So that kind of took my interest, mainly because it's something new, it's something fresh. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that, and maybe that might be one of the games I get with my PS4. However, I don't think it's a launch game, which is a real pain in the butt. I think it's coming in January, but we'll have to see. But for now, I'm keeping my eye on it. Right, so the fourth game that took my attention was Infamous Second Son. Now, I've never played an Infamous game. I played, to tell a lie, technically I played the demo of, I believe, the first game, and it really didn't grab me like that. I think what it was the thing is, it was nothing we hadn't seen before. With games like Crackdown and what was the other one that was very similar to Crackdown 2? Yes, it was those two, Crackdown 1 and Crackdown 2. And we seem to be having a resurgence at the moment of superhero stuff, like with even Saints Row 4. That looks very superhero-esque. In fact, it's all built around the premise of the superhero. But Second Son really grabbed me, and mainly it was the animation. The animation on that game, like the facial animation and the movement of the characters, looks absolutely flawless. And of course the game looks beautiful as well, but I'm not a graphics person. If you give me a beautiful looking game that has no gameplay, I would say, what's the point? But yeah, that really drew me in, and the effects of the powers look very interesting. I believe this time round, smoke is the character's power. And when I first thought about that, I thought, smoke? That's kind of weird. But if you watch the trailer, it's very interesting. Like, you can kind of warp in and out of like space, so you can kind of quantum leap around. You can fly as well, which is kind of important. I think all superhero games you should be able to fly or glide. And I like the idea of the story. Now, from the small amount of the game that I know, it appears that certain people have become superheroes. What do they call them? Bioterrorists. And there appears to be some kind of crackdown on all of that. So that's kind of interesting. The old oppressive government thing is strong right now. It seems to be the hot topic. We're moving away from zombies to oppressive governments. But that's fine. You know, move with the times. And the finisher of that demo really surprised me, because all of this is running in-game as well. And you kind of get surrounded by loads of cars and just all craziness, about to get swamped by the cops. Or the army, whoever the hell they are. And then he does this cool special move where you see him fly up into the air. You see, again, the expression on his face as well is just like, fuck it, I'm having fun. And then just flies into the ground and smashes the shit out of everything. That kind of blew me away. I mean, it kind of looks like a Pixar movie, which again, it seems to be the running theme of this generation. I'm going to be interesting to see what these games actually look like on launch, but so far they're very, very impressive. If they can add this much emotion into the actual characters, I think the film industry could be in a lot of trouble. I mean, personally, I don't watch films and TV anyway. If I want some entertainment, I'll sit down and play a game. I don't like just sitting here watching something that I have no control or no interaction over. I've always preferred gaming. And I think the interactivity of these new games with the animation and it's interesting times ahead. That's all I've got to say. So I've got my eye on this one. And me and Nikki have both been watching the video of this. I think we've watched it like 3 or 4 times now, and we're quite excited. So this might be an early buy and let's play. Okay, so this brings us to the fifth and final favourite thing from E3, and that, of course, is the design of the PS4. Now, for a long time, I've been saying that I think the PS4 is going to be a hideous monstrosity. I've been saying I think it's going to be absolutely disgusting, because personally I've thought pretty much all of Sony's machines have been disgusting, apart from the PSP and the PlayStation Vita. I thought the PS3, all iterations of that were horrible. I don't know, it just looks terrible to me. The PS2 was probably the best of the bunch, the original model. The PS1 kind of looked like a toy, but I guess that suited the time. So when they revealed this, the PS4, I was really quite shocked. I like the angular design. A lot of people have said it looks like the Xbox One. Can't see it myself, apart from the fact that they both have slot loading DVD drives, Blu-ray drives. That's kind of where the similarities end. Now, the Xbox One, I don't actually think it's a terrible design. I think it's too big, to be honest. So that's kind of a bit strange why they've gone for that. I'm going to say the reason they've gone for a massive box is possibly 2 things. Maybe they want the consumer to feel like they're getting a big, hefty machine for their money, or maybe it's just because of cooling. So they can put a massive, great cooling system in there, because obviously that was a massive problem with the original Xbox. The Slim, not so much. But then this, I couldn't believe it when they announced this. The size of it was tiny, and I think it looks gorgeous. It looks very high tech, and this render here is amazing. I'll put a link to this in the description so you guys can check it out. I kind of like the sandwich design. It's very futuristic. You have your slot loader in the front, which is very standard. I'd say standard these days. 2 USB 3 ports. I thought that was a bit strange. Only 2 USB ports. But then Sense kicked in and said, would you actually use them for on a console anyway? So yeah, I'm fine with that. And I like the way they're right on the front of the machine, easy access. Now, from what I can understand, this stand does not come with the machine. So that's fine. I'll buy one, but I won't use it. Now on the back, you can see we have a lot of ventilation, which is going to be key because you obviously don't want it to overheat, and the PS4, for what it is very small. Apparently, and from the images I've seen, it's actually comparable to the slimmest PlayStation 3. So I thought that was quite interesting. So you got your optical out, standard stuff there, very important. You got your adapter, power adapter. You got only HDMI. That's one thing to note. So I don't think these new machines are going to support the old CRT TVs and things like that. It's not a big loss. Most people that play games have HDMI based TVs anyway. You got your LAN port and you got your auxiliary port. Now that is for the PlayStation Eye. And the biggest thing I like about this machine is the hard drive is user upgradable. Why? I'll get to that later. I'll get to the Xbox One later. Now the control pad I'm not 100% sold on, but I'm sure that will change as soon as I get it in my hand. I think it looks quite bizarre. But then also a lot of that might come down to the fact that we're so used to the DualShock, and this is the first time. DualShock, DualShock 4, whatever you want to call it. We're so used to that standard controller, and this is the first time in what, nearly 20 years that they've actually radically redesigned it. So I think that's quite interesting. I mean, they haven't changed it too much. It looks very comfortable. You have your touchpad in the middle, which is clickable. Now that's interesting because that's a whole new way of using this thing. This is going to be really cool if the developers use it. Now you got your options button, which is basically your system menu and all that. Now the share button they keep waffling on about, I guess it's going to be handy. I mean, we still don't 100% know what the capabilities of the machine's recording are, so that's up in the air. But I think it's going to be very interesting on the PlayStation Network. I can't see people doing Let's Plays from it, or whole match Call of Duty plays. I might be wrong, but I can't see it happening. Now we've got the familiar PlayStation button there, and we have a speaker on the controller as well, which, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, Nintendo did this with the Wii U. They had that crappy, awful speaker on the Wii U. I mean, on the, well, there is one on the Wii U as well, yes. But on the Wiimote. Now, that was terrible. It sounded awful. So I'm hoping that's a lot better than that. And it's going to be interesting to see how that actually works in the real world environment. Now the buttons, everything's pretty much the same. D-pad looks nice. Now they've changed the shoulder buttons to be more like triggers, which is good because the PS3s, well, you can't really call them triggers, can you? But I'm going to call them triggers. Were terrible. I really didn't like them. Now the control pads are keeping their rechargeable battery, which is fine, but I don't think you can open the pad up and change the battery, which is kind of a bugger. A lot of people are moaning that the Xbox 360 is using AA's as its power source for its controllers, and I can see why people are moaning. It feels very out of date. However, you don't have the trouble of when the battery in your controller dies, you can just swap the batteries out. Whereas if your PS4 controller dies, you chuck the pad, buy a new one, which has happened to a lot of people with very old PlayStation 3s, which is a bit of a shame. So, overall, I think it looks really nice. It looks really futuristic. Now, coming to heat, apparently this machine runs at 1.6 gigahertz, which is a very slow clock speed. So I don't think you're going to be getting mega amounts of heat from that. I don't know what the TDP of the chip is. I haven't actually looked. Maybe I might be worth looking up. Also, it's using an APU, which is very heat efficient anyway. So I don't think we're going to be getting a lot of heat from the system. And the GDDR5 RAM pulls less power as well, so that's another cutback on heat there. But we've got this weird blue strip on the side of the machine too, and I like that. I want to know how that's going to be used. Is there anything I'd have liked to have seen on there that isn't? It would have been nice, I think, to have the card readers back, because they were handy, but a very small percentage of people actually used them. I think the buttons are strange, where you've got your eject button there and your power button there. That's kind of an odd design. But yeah, it's the best looking PlayStation that I've seen so far. It's a shame you can't see how you remove the hard drive from this this render. Now, the guy that did this render did a fantastic job. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now they have said that this is not the final design. This is near final, so they might have a few little cosmetic changes. They might, for instance, cover up the USB ports. They might change the look of the buttons. But this is basically the final unit, but they might tamper with it a little bit. So yeah, this wraps up my 5 favourite things from E3, and this video is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be honest. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this part. Coming up next, my least favourite things of E3. Now, yeah, they all kind of gravitate around one thing, which I'm sure most people will know. So I might not do a 5 things. I might just do my least favourite things. Anyway, let's move on to the next part. Right, so this brings us on to the final part of this vlog. What didn't I like about E3? Or what haven't I liked so far about these consoles? And unfortunately, I'm looking at Microsoft. The Xbox Kinect. Now, the original Kinect was a steaming bag of arse. Or should I say, we borrowed it for about 6 months off Nicky's brother. Yeah, we actually borrowed it for 6 months because he barely used it. And I was really not very impressed at all with it, with the lag and just having to completely rearrange the room to use it. I don't really get their angle with Kinect. I've never played a game on Kinect that was actually any good or even playable to a degree. I mean, we had Kinect, what was it called? Kinect Adventures. Yes, it was a bit of a laugh for about, I think we played it twice, possibly 3 times, for about a couple of hours each time. And eventually we just got pissed off with the fact that it wouldn't actually recognise anything we was doing. So the fact that they're sticking Kinect in the box, which is pushing the price of the machine up, is kind of annoying, to be honest, because a lot of Xbox fanboys, yes, fanboys, even they don't want Kinect. Now, I think Kinect is going to be a lot better this time round. I think it's going to be really accurate with the motion tracking, and the stuff that they have shown is very impressive. All the paranoia about it looking at you whilst you're on the toilet and staring at you whilst you're eating your dinner and reading your heart rate and seeing if you're smuggling drugs, I don't really care about that, to be honest. There's cameras on all sorts of things these days. I mean, there's microphones on our phone that they say is constantly transmitting data. Who the hell knows? But that's not a big issue for me. But I know it's a big issue for some people. And I don't understand why it has to actually be connected to the Xbox for the Xbox to actually function. Yes, you can turn it off software-wise in the actual system menu, but that doesn't turn it off. It's still on and listening. So, not very happy with that. I would have preferred Kinect to be an option from day one, so you can buy the machine for perhaps £100 cheaper without Kinect, or if you want Kinect, great, you can have Kinect, but they've taken that choice away, and everybody, even those who don't want it, have to pay for the thing. Now, the restrictions are kind of a bastard. We don't really know the full details. We've got a good idea. We know that the machine, you can lend games to one person, and then that game is locked to them forever. That is really, really stupid. I cannot see any reason for that whatsoever. I mean, I've lent games to people throughout my entire gaming years. I've borrowed games off people. You cannot afford to buy every single game you want. These guys need to fucking wake up and realise that people aren't made of money. We're not all millionaires that can afford to go onto eBay and buy a game that's sold out for £2,000. It's just not happening. Now, I don't mind downloading games digitally if they're significantly cheaper. I don't mind doing that. But not being able to lend a game to a friend, you know what? That is a deal breaker for me. The fact that you have to connect the box to the internet every single day. Yes, it's not always online, it's only every 24 hours. Hey, guess what? That kind of always is online. One day, 24 hours you can use the machine that you paid for, with the games that you paid for, because these aren't games you've borrowed, because you can't do that. So everything you have for your Xbox, you have paid for, but they lock that out. if you don't connect in 24 hours. That, and the reason that one of the reasons they're saying is because the Xbox relies heavily on the cloud. The cloud does some of the processing for the games. The cloud I'm trying to wrap my head around this thing. I can understand them doing these things on the Xbox as an option. Yes, it's great to offload some of the processing to the cloud. Yes, it's great to have these persistent worlds. But for online games, why do they need that for a single player? You can't. I mean, I'm very lucky. I have a 80 megabit fiber optic internet connection, but we haven't always had that. We've only had that for about a year. Now, when money gets tight, as it does sometimes, people lose their job. I lost my job at Christmas. If someone else in this house loses their job, which is a real possibility. I mean, Nikki, the place where she works is on the rocks. If she loses her job, I'm sorry, the internet's going until things pick up again. And that means we cannot use the Xbox. All those guys fighting around the world, whether as other people have said, whether you believe in the war or not is irrelevant. All the people on ships, all the people in submarines, all the people in the desert, all the soldiers, even people that are on cruise liners and things like that, they can't use it. There are a lot of countries around the world that don't have good enough internet, and they're not even going to get the machine. So they've cut such a large amount of people off from actually owning the machine to begin with. I mean, even in America and the UK, there are still places that use 56k dial-up. And on top of that, they recommend that you have a 1.5 meg connection or higher to be able to use it properly. Which, okay, most people with broadband have that. I think the average speed in the UK, from what I know, is like 5-6 meg. So that's fine. But there's so many people that don't have it. Poland apparently isn't even getting the Xbox One. Now they're making The Witcher for the Xbox One. That's not right, man. If I was a games developer and I was making a game for a platform and they said, oh, well, it's not actually coming out in your country, I'd be like, yeah, okay, we're cancelling this then, and we're going to put it on the competition because the competition is coming out here. But anyway, that's just crazy. The whole online thing, I understand what they're trying to do. I do, and I appreciate that they're trying to push technology forwards. But a lot of these things could have been options. There's no reason, if you cannot get an internet connection, to completely lock your machine down. And then they said, well, you'll still be able to watch DVDs, you'll still be able to watch Blu-rays. Yeah, well, my home theatre system does that. And it probably does that better than the Xbox One. Or at least as good. And it does all the features as well. The switching TV, all that crap. My TV does, and my home cinema does. My Skybox already goes into my home cinema through a pass-through, which is what the Xbox One does. And the Xbox One's features aren't even coming to this country yet. And on top of that, you have to install every game, which actually doesn't bother me because I always install my games anyway, because once your laser's worn out, you're fucked. So I'm actually hoping the PS4 also has the option of installing your game completely to the hard drive and running off that. I'm hoping for that. If not, nah, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a pain in the ass. But with not having a removable hard drive, that's kind of a big issue if you're going to have a large library of games. I mean, for me to download 10 gigs of information, a 10 gig game will probably take 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I am in the tiny minority. My mate, when he downloads a game off Steam, say downloads a full game, that can take 2 days. So can you imagine trying to micromanage all your games between the cloud and the Xbox if you have even an averagely good internet connection, it's just the fact that you can't swap your hard drive out for a bigger one is just stupid. Even in on the 360 you could swap your hard drives around. Yes, they were proprietary, but you still had the option of upgrading. Here you don't even have the option of upgrading. You can add an external hard drive, fine, but I thought this was the Xbox One all-in-one. You don't need to add shit to it, but you kind of have to daisy chain hard drives off it to get the maximum potential out of it. I don't know. And it is very, very expensive as well. I mean, if you're going to buy the machine, you're looking at, was it £430? 2 games could be 120 quid. Xbox Live subscription, £50 on top. It is not a cheap machine. And to have all those restrictions on top, I cannot see this thing flying off the shelves. I think it's going to be like the Wii U. I think it's going to go crazy for a week or two, and then it's just going to die. I really think that's going to happen. And I don't think any of these features are going to be rectified. I don't think Microsoft's going to go back on the always online. I might be wrong, but because the machine is so heavily vested into the cloud, all the games that are using the cloud processing, they need the cloud to work. So it's going to be strange. It's a very strange and terrifying new generation for games. I like the way games used to work. You plug the game into the machine, off you go. As long as you had a power socket for your games console and a TV, you were good to go. But now that's not the case. And I'm not even going to get into the whole used games debacle because we really still don't know the full picture. So that's my Xbox One rant. And I'm saying now, as much as I love Halo, I am never ever going to buy an Xbox One. Absolutely not. No way. And it's going to be the first games console that I've ever said no to. So, anyway, with that out of the way, the final thing, I guess, was Nintendo. I was really disappointed with Nintendo this year. It looks like the game drought is going to continue. Yes, we're going to get new Mario. Yes, we're going to get Mario Kart next bloody year. Pokemon X and Y, fantastic. Can't wait to pick those up. Third-party support, non-existent, really. 14 games that are coming out. I mean, let's be honest here. Who is going to buy Watch Dogs on the Wii U when you can get it on your powerful PC or your PS4 and your Xbox One? It hurts my head thinking about it. It's just not going to happen. Bayonetta, I was not really that into. Nikki loved the hell out of it. So maybe. And the other thing I was really expecting from Nintendo was a price cut, because the PS3 is £50 more expensive. Nintendo is going to be in trouble. Now everyone keeps saying, oh, we're going to get more third-party games. I don't think that's going to happen, because the quantum leap in processing power between the PS4 and the Wii U is massive. It's actually, I would say, further from the Wii and the 360 when you take RAM into consideration. Like the PS4, it has 7 times more RAM. Cutting a game down to go on the Wii U, and with the small amount of people that have Wii U's, I personally think, and I'm not bashing on Nintendo, I like Nintendo. I liked the Wii. I didn't love it, I liked it. I loved the GameCube. I loved the DS. I loved the 3DS. But I think Nintendo's going to be in trouble. I think, but I don't actually think they care. They seem to be in their own little bubble. They're away from the big boys, fighting, scrapping in the playground. They're like the pleasant little quiet kid that's just sitting in the corner. But outside of their fans, I can't see them attracting that many people to their brand. There's no killer app game coming for it. I mean, X looks interesting, but it's a very niche game from the look of it. This kind of crazy Monster Hunter-esque Japanese mech thing. I mean, to me it sounds fantastic, but it doesn't seem to do overly well in the West, so it's going to be interesting. Wonderful 101 looks good. That looked really good. Pikmin 3, I cannot wait because I loved Pikmin 1 and 2, so that's going to be good. And I can't really think of anything else they announced. Smash Brothers, I couldn't really give a rat's ass. Donkey Kong Country kinda looks like the Wii game, just in HD. No Star Fox, no Metroid. I think Nintendo's been suffering now, but when the new machines come out, it's gonna be painful to watch. But hey, I might be wrong. A killer app might come out for the machine, but I don't think so. Anyway, that's pretty much been the first episode of this new vlog series, which will improve over time as I get things sorted a bit more. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Please leave comments and video responses and let me know, what did you guys think of E3? Anyway, I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.